Hey everyone, how is everybody doing? And thank you so much for joining in because over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to have an awesome learning experience with the whole new buzzwords. I've done a couple of posts on LinkedIn with respect to this that everybody, आप किसी भी सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म पे चले जाओ तो everybody is now talking about यूएस स्टॉक्स पे इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए. It's about riding the wave with Apple and Facebook and Tesla, etc. But if you ask people, most people don't have too much knowledge on होता क्या है, करना क्या है, etc. So and that's where with this whole buzzword I got my interest going and I got in touch with the man himself. Viram Shah is whom I have today. He's the CEO and co-founder of Vested Finance, which helps you directly invest in US stocks sitting right here in India. But होता क्या है, करना क्या होता है, क्या important है, क्या चीजें देखनी होती है, is all something that we are not much aware of, and that's where I will have this lovely conversation with Viram. And before I invite him as a part of the broadcast, I want everybody who's joining in to drop in a hi in the comments. Drop in where are you joining from so that I know that my stream is working fine. So just drop in a hi or the city or the location that you are from. And with that, I would love to invite Viram. And hi Viram, how are you?
Doing good, Sampark, doing good. Thanks a lot for having me here today.
No. Today I am going to throw all those serious questions and I'm going to grill you here. I want to know about US stocks. My financial advisor has been saying US stocks may diversify karo, etc. And I don't have too much knowledge. So I said, okay, I will learn it from you. And with this, I will want everybody who's joining in. So we have people from Bombay, Pune, we have somebody from Haldia as well. And there's Viram joining in from Bombay as well. So Viram, let's jump in. The first question, who is Viram? If you can just introduce yourself as well. We know you as the CEO and co-founder of Vested, but who are you? If you can give a small introduction for everybody joining in.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I were to summarize my introduction, I'm somebody who's always wanted to be in the technology and entrepreneurship field, and so here I am with Vested. In terms of my background, done a bunch of different things. So I come from a very business-minded family. So from a young age, I've been exposed to sort of businesses, entrepreneurship, but realized that that was what they were doing was not something that was interesting to me. I wanted to be more in sort of fields that might be more cutting edge and technology driven. So that's when I decided, okay, every step that I take will be towards that end goal. And so did engineering, tried a couple of ventures, then nothing really took off. Then found my way somehow to JP Morgan and entered the world of finance. That's why I learned my finance chops and kind of understood how the world of valuations, investing, all of that happens. That's in fact when the seed for Vested was planted, little seed where I was covering all these global companies from India, understood all their businesses really well, but couldn't invest in them in an easy manner. Like I went even to my broker and asked him, but he just laughed at me saying, Viram, you can never do this. And so that stuck with me. I didn't do anything about it then. But after JP Morgan, got the opportunity to go to the US. So I was at Haas, did my MBA there. And that is when I kind of started dabbling in a bunch of, again, different ideas. And this was one of the pain points that came back, which was, hey, I am living in India. When I see my classmates in the US, they can all invest internationally in a very easy manner. But why is it that outside of the US, it's so difficult for you to create wealth internationally in an easy manner? And so, yeah, that was the journey towards the birth of Vested now almost 3 years ago.
So what all does Vested do? So हमको ये तो समझ आ गया. How did that idea come about? You were based out of there and you saw your friends and that idea came in. So what is Vested after all? And what does it actually do?
Yeah. So today, the product that we have or the platform that we have allows Indians to invest in the US public markets, so US stocks and ETFs, in an easy manner. So that is our current product and that's our current goal. If you ask us what our mission at Vested is or what we want to be, we basically want to enable individuals to create wealth in a sustainable manner by allowing them to go from local investors to global investors. So because you then get access to all of these different opportunities, our understanding is that you can then create wealth more sustainably rather than having it completely focused in one market or asset classes that are only available to you locally. So that is our mission at Vested, and that's a massive problem that needs to be solved, not just for Indian investors, but for investors across the world. Today, it's very, in this sort of globalized age, it's still very difficult to invest in assets beyond your local borders. And so that's the whole pain point that we want to solve over the next 5-10 years.
Got it. So this is what Vested is all about. But then now I will start asking the questions that all the viewers who are here and all the people that I've interacted with since I start posted that first image out saying that I'm going live in Viram is now is the learning part of it. And what is the benefit of investing in US stocks? सब बोल तो रहे हैं, but क्यों करें? Why isn't whatever we are doing here enough? Why US stocks?
Yeah. I mean, very relevant question, and I think this is that awareness that is missing in majority of the investors. So I'll share 4 or 5 points that essentially will convey to you why you should be doing US investing or why you should be investing internationally. The first is, I mean, we are missing out on accessing the largest markets in the world, right? Like today, whenever you buy a product, you go for the best type of product. You don't want to compromise in terms of quality. But when we're investing, we are not going for the best type of product. We are going for what is available to us. So what we want to do through this is open up access to the largest market in the world, which is the US markets, which command about 44 trillion in market cap, about 50% of the total world's market cap. Compare that to what we have in the India markets. While it's growing and it's growing fast, no denying it, it's still smaller, right? So we are about 3 to 4 trillion in terms of market cap, about 4% of the total world. So lots to do, and definitely India will grow, but you should also at the same time expose yourself to the best that's available out there, which is in the US market. So that's one. The second is, which is a common misconception that a lot of people have, Sampark, is that the Indian markets, because the Indian economy, because it's growing fast, means that the stock market is going to be performing any better than any other market. So that's not necessarily true, and that is something we have to sort of disassociate in our minds, which is if an economy is growing fast, not necessarily that the stock market grows fast. So in terms of returns, the US market is actually given exactly similar returns if you compare them in local currency. So you compare them US dollar to INR, very similar returns over the last 10 years, about 12 to 13%. But what happens now, if you convert both of them to the same currency, which is you convert the dollar returns into rupees, that what happens is the US markets actually outperform the India markets because of the fact that the rupee, which 10 years ago used to be 45, now it's 75. So it's depreciated. Basically, the value has reduced, which means that you get an additional 4 to 5% returns when you invest in dollars in the international market. And so that's something that you should be taking a benefit of by diversifying in another currency. So that's the second point, which is returns are similar, but if you convert them to local currency, you actually get to benefit from the rupee depreciation. The third reason is, and I just have one more, the third reason is that you get the opportunity to invest in companies that aren't type of companies that aren't available in India, right? So one major example here is the technology industry. We now are starting to see startups go public and technology companies available for you to invest in the public markets. But in the US, it's a sector that's very well developed. And you have tons of technology companies. And if you believe that technology is the future, you should be parking some of your wealth in those type of companies, right? Not just the FANGs of the world, but there are so many up-and-coming technology companies as well. That you should be looking at. And so that sector, the opportunity to invest in that sector is something that is different in the US market, something that's not available in India. And lastly, just a lot of us have dollar goals as well. A lot of us have global aspirations. We want to study abroad, like I did. We want to travel abroad, live abroad. But when it comes to doing these international things, you don't have the wealth stored in the same currency, right? So you save in rupees, but then the rupee devalues, which means that you need to save a lot more. So right, when investing in the international markets, you can actually save in the same currency for all of these goals that might be global in nature. So that helps you kind of match your expense to your savings in a much easier manner. So these are the 3-4 main reasons why one should be looking at diversifying internationally.
Got it. So you mentioned 4 points, and let me go through them. One, that you talk about investing in one of the largest market in the world and not losing out on that opportunity there. You spoke about the currency difference, and if the rupee depreciates, you benefit out of it if you are investing there. You spoke about the technology bit, so the Facebooks and the Teslas and the Apples. I think we are one of the bigger markets for Apple now, but it's time that you invest there. So that's the third point. And you spoke about the global aspirations that we have. So those are 4 points that are there. Now, the very next question जो बहुत लोग पूछते हैं, and guys keep those comments flowing in, keep throwing your questions in so that I can collate it together and throw it at Viram as well. In the next part is a lot of people say, is it even legal to buy US stocks from India? So I know it might be, I don't know the answer, it might be a very simple answer, but ये है एक myth है. What do you have to say about something like this?
Yeah. So it's and this is a question that we get very frequently asked, and so the answer to it is yes, it is very much legal to do it. And how it's legal is basically defined by the RBI under a scheme. The scheme, which is called a Liberalized Remittance Scheme, or LRS, is what it's typically named as. That scheme governs how an Indian can send money abroad on an annual basis. So what it says is that as an Indian, you can send $250,000 or $2.5 lakh annually internationally for multiple reasons. Now, under those reasons, there is education, there is travel-related money expenses, and one of the reasons that they've outlined here as well is investment in the public markets internationally. So under that, very much you can do international investments, and the maximum cap that you can do is $250,000. What you cannot do, and that's something that you should also keep in mind, is you cannot basically take margin on it. What it means is you cannot take a loan on the money that you've sent abroad and use that loan to invest internationally. So that's something that's not allowed. Or it also says you cannot invest it into speculative products, which means that derivative instruments are something that you should stay away from when you're transferring money internationally under the LRS. So these are the two things that you cannot do. But if you want to invest in stocks and ETFs, very much legal to be able to do that.
Got it. So legal तो हो गया, आप कर सकते हो. Technically, you are allowed to do it. That throws us to the very next question is, इसका taxation कैसे होता है? Now, यहाँ तो your CA knows how to file in your taxes for this, but the investments that you're doing abroad in terms of US stock investments, how does the taxation work for something like this?
Yeah. So Sampark, it's a little different from when you're investing in the India markets. But once you do it for the first time and understand it, it becomes very simplified. And what we've done at Vested to make life simple for our customers is we give them everything literally served on a plate, so that you can either give it to your CA or you upload it yourself on an online platform and file your taxes. So that part has been simplified. But just from the point of view of understanding how it actually works, there are two basic incomes that one can get, right, when they're investing in stocks. So the first income would be capital gains, which is if your investment gains in terms of its value. And the second income that you can make is in the dividend form, which gets credited into your account. Now, on the first bit, the capital gains bit, there are further two subdivisions, which is short-term and long-term. So when investing in the US markets, the threshold for something that is considered long-term is 24 months. So if you invest into Apple, hold it for 24 months and then sell it, it gets considered as a long-term investment. Now, if your investment is short-term, the tax rate is as per your income tax slab. So it could be 10%, 15%, 20% on the gains. Whereas if it's long-term, it is 20% with indexation benefit. So you basically get to reduce it by the inflation that happens in India. So that's how the capital gain taxation works. On the other hand, on the dividend side of things, so whenever you're getting a dividend, there is a 25% withholding, which means that if you are entitled to $1 of dividends, you will get only 75 cents of dividends. The 25 cents will be withheld by the broker. And what you can do, so there is an agreement between US and India, which is the double tax avoidance. You can take credit for that 25 cents in India. But it tends to be a little bit of a longer process. So what we typically see people doing is that unless your dividends are really large, you don't go for the credit. You just accept that as a tax that you're paying.
Okay. And what I understand is on the app itself, you get all the relevant data and the thing which you can just give to your CA and process it ahead. right?
Correct. So there are two tricky bits that you need to navigate through this, because you're investing in dollars, you don't know how to convert it into rupee. Like वो कौन सा conversion rate लेना है, how to do it, you have no idea. So that we simplify.
Right.
There are specific regulations by defined by the IT laws. And the second is key, our financial is different, right? So US follows Jan to December, we follow March to March. So nobody would give you a report when you need it at the end of March. So that's again something that we have done for our customers because we know the pain point they face.
Got it. I think that's because see when you talk to that whole Indian ना ये taxation वाला दर्द सबको रहता है because people don't understand it. तो CA is what they doing. So I get that. So there are questions coming in there as well, and I will go back to them once we've done. But I think I see one important question there is prior to your understanding of this whole US thing, because you stayed there. What were your misconceptions there, and what were these myths which were busted when you went and understood these markets there? So it's a tough question, but
no, what exactly does it mean in terms of myths, in terms of investing in the US markets?
Yes. What
Okay.
got clarified when you suddenly learned about this when you stayed there?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the big things that I understood is that one, you don't necessarily need to be, I mean, just my eyes opened in terms of the fact that you don't necessarily need to be located in a country in which you're investing. Like that was the biggest eye opener, that you can essentially be anywhere in the world and invest into the US markets. And the biggest thing that we realized was why people haven't done it is that it's just been very, very expensive, and nobody's created a journey that is seamless enough that can allow people in today's age where you literally expect everything on your fingertips, allow them to do it in a quick and fast manner. So that was a big realization, which we then went back and said that, okay, let's use technology. And it took us 2 years to create a product which is seamless, cost effective, that allows you to start investing internationally in an easy manner. That was one of the big things that led to the product journey investing. If you ask me about how my worldview of investing changed, I think one of the biggest things that changed for me was that I used to be a sort of a stocks person, and now I've become an ETF person, where I've been doing a lot more ETF based investing, and there are a wide variety of ETFs available in the US market, so that's what makes it most interesting versus kind of picking and choosing individual stocks. So that was again something that was an eye-opener when I went to the US, because I saw how much money is actually going into these ETFs and how sort of they are the ones that are driving returns in the market versus just individual stocks.
Got it. Makes absolute sense, Viram. And now that again jumps to the next thing as well. Now, when we talk about diversification, we are saying कि ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं कि सब कुछ आज US में डाल दो, ठीक है, you put a difference there. But from an Indian consumer perspective, how is investing in the US stock market different from what he's used to as in investing in the Indian stock market? Difference क्या है?
Yeah. So differences तो है थोड़े, and those are some intricacies that one needs to understand. Like for example, a lot of people ask us कि यार यहाँ पे हमें डीमैट अकाउंट स्टेटमेंट मिलता है तो यूएस में मिलेगा कि नहीं. So that is one key difference, where the structure of both the models, the way the stock markets are structured is a little different from India and the US. In India, you have NSDL, CDSL, and I think one of the questions was also around that. NSDL, CDSL, which holds the shares in a demat account. In the US, there is no concept of sort of a NSDL, CDSL. That is, I mean, there are depositories, but it's not like how it is in India, where the NSDL, CDSL data is available in terms of the end consumer. So in the US, what happens is the broker essentially is the one who is entitled, or who is the one held responsible for holding your securities in a regulated manner. And they in turn work with a custodian. So you don't end up getting that statement from a depository. The broker's statement is the final statement that you get. So it's basically a depository versus a custodian model. It's a little detailed, but that is one key difference that you should understand. The second thing, which is very much working in our favor, is the ability to invest in fractions. So that was something that was never available earlier, and which is now made a product like Vested actually viable, right? Because if I wanted to go in and buy an Amazon share, it's like 2 lakh rupees, $3,000. मैं कैसे वो जाके खरीदूंगा? So now, because of the fractional capability, you can now buy literally even $1 or a 50 cent or a $2, $3, $5 of Amazon. So you can build your portfolio over time. No need to spend a lot of money just buying one share. So that is one big difference, which is not, fractional shares are not available in India, right? So that's one key thing. I think the third thing that you need to know is, one of the common questions we get is, can I subscribe to an IPO in the US market? That is something again that is different, where in India, every company that IPOs has to have a certain segment that they save for the retail investor, right? जहाँ पे आप जाके subscribe कर सकते हो. But in the US, there is no such thing. In the US, most of the IPOs get subscribed completely by companies. Individual, even US residents don't get access to the IPO, right? So that's the difference, where you not necessarily will get access to a US IPO, whereas in India you can subscribe to all of these new IPOs happening. So I think these are three of the kind of core differences that we see.
A very, very important point, and this was something that I was also not aware of, that you can buy part shares there. Because India में क्या है कि आपने एक शेयर खरीदा, दो शेयर खरीदा, but then you're saying that you can buy a $10 off Amazon and a $5 off Facebook. And because when you're talking about retail investors, and specifically with the whole currency exchange, there is a small disposable income that you have, and that's what you talk about. I will now jump to one question that somebody asked here was, suggest that should we should you park in US stocks? So maybe something of a starting figure if you recommend to people on कि कितना percentage के साथ आप diversify कर सकते हो.
Yeah. That's a very good question, and it of course differs from a case-to-case basis. But the underlying, so the short answer is, you can look at between 15 to 20% of your portfolio. Now, it doesn't make sense to do less than that, because the underlying reason why you're doing this is to get the benefit of geographic diversification, right? To make sure that you're investing in another currency and economy. So anything less than that doesn't really give that diversification benefit to you. So at least 15 to 20% is what you should look at. Then, depending on what your goals are, let's say you have your child's education coming up, then you could look at, maybe it's a major expense, right? And if it's international education, so you can look at skewing that portfolio percentage higher. But typically, 15 to 20% gives you that actual benefit of diversification.
Got it. So, if at this point I would ask any things to note or any words of caution, because yes, share market at the end of the day has its ups and downs. So what are the things that people should note specifically from this perspective कि आप US stock market में invest कर रहे हो?
I think a couple of things. One is that because you're converting that currency, there is definitely an additional risk in the process, right? Which is called the FX risk. Basically, because rupee to dollar convert हो रहा है और आपके investments dollar में हो रहे हैं, it is a risk because that rupee US dollar moves up and down. What one should not try to do is time the market कि यार मैं ये rate पे ही transfer करूंगा, and I'm trying to make sure that I get the maximum. The way to go about it is what we do with our SIPs. Basically, dollar cost average or cost average your deposits, which is do it on a monthly basis, so that you're not entering at a particular rate and your portfolio is not exposed to that particular rate. So that's one thing. That's something that you should keep in mind. Don't try to over optimize your returns by pricing or by trying to predict the rupee dollar rates. The second thing is actually ties back to that realization that I had, which was ETFs are a much better way to approach investing than stocks. So a lot of people, what they might do is you're starting investing in the US markets, very excited. You go in and buy Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, because you feel like, they're ruling the world, there's nothing else. What you should try and do is just look at ETFs more than trying to pick individual stocks, because unless you're actively tracking the markets, doing your research, it's very difficult to time when to enter into a particular stock. So ETFs give you a diversified way of investing internationally, and there are a lot of different types of ETFs. Like you could say, I believe in technology, I want to do a technology ETF. You could say, I believe in Brazil as an economy, I want to invest in an ETF that is investing in Brazil. Or you could say, I believe in global healthcare, so there's an ETF that gives you global healthcare. So lot of variety. Try and discover more of those than, let's say, the low-hanging fruits in terms of the Facebook, Apple, Googles of the world.
Got it. Makes absolute sense. So we had close to around 50 people on LinkedIn and on YouTube simultaneously. So guys, feel free to keep throwing your questions in. We are getting a lot of questions from both the platforms as such. And also, in the description of this stream as well, you will find the link of Vested. So do try that out so you get an understanding of how it works. So now coming to this question, look, there are now multiple ways of investing in US stocks. Why Vested Finance? How is Vested different from all the others that are there?
Yeah. So our goal at Vested is how can we make your international diversification or cross-border diversification as easy as possible. And so we've done a bunch of things to get you towards that. The first thing that is different with Vested is you can open up your account almost real time. Like about 80% of our customers, unless there's an issue with documentation, are immediately having a US brokerage account open for them, which is not at all possible today and which was never possible earlier as well. So makes your life very easy. You can get started quickly. The second thing is, now the biggest pain point was ki, how do I get dollars, right? Meko LRS ke under transfer karna hai paisa. How do I do it in a seamless manner? And so here we've developed a solution called Vested Direct, which allows you to, through the app itself, it's a wallet, you can load money in a super fast manner, in a super transparent, but most importantly, a cost-effective manner, a rate which has never been possible earlier. So it helps you save on a ton of costs, which earlier used to incur when you wanted to transfer money internationally. Then when you come onto the platform itself, we realize that there are kind of two types of customers. One who wants to do their own research, or the second, a customer who needs certain hand-holding, doesn't know what to invest in the US markets. And so for both of them, we have different things available. If you want to do your own research, we give you all the data, we give you charts. If you want advice, we give you pre-built portfolios so that you can get started in an easy manner. You don't need to figure out what to invest in. So for both, that is available. And then lastly, if you want to bring your money back, the cost has been reduced substantially. So we are one of the lowest costs in terms of distribution, in terms of withdrawal, and then the tax reports as well, right? So end to end, we've tried to make your lives as simple as possible. And I think you'll realize it whenever you try it.
Got it. And now that you've been there in the market for 3 years, what's the next plan for you? What do you want to do ahead?
Lots of things that we want to do ahead. So our goal is to open up the world of assets that lies beyond India, and somebody has to do that. Somebody has to give opportunities to folks living in India to build their wealth internationally as well, right? And so that's the mission that we are on. We've started off with US stocks and ETFs. But there are different asset classes that we want to enable for our customers. There are different markets that you should be able to get access to, right? Like you should be able to get access to the top 5 markets in the world in a very easy manner. So that's something that we want to focus on. Basically, our goal is, as I mentioned earlier, is how to allow local investors to go global. And so anything on the global landscape is what we want to enable for our customers.
Got it. The next question is partly what you already answered, but I'll still go ahead and ask it. For somebody like me, जिसने कभी नहीं किया है, and he does not have too much knowledge, and I'm assuming a lot of people who commented also said that they get some clarity on US stocks right now. What are the ways that you can handhold somebody like me जिसको बिल्कुल idea नहीं है? And because it is something very, very different. It's not something that your financial advisor might be aware of. सबके लिए कुछ नया है. So how do you guide novices like me to crack this whole maze of US stocks?
Yeah. So here we focused on 3 things. One is कि आपका onboarding कितना seamless हो सकता है. मतलब it should be the least friction for you to be able to open an account because otherwise it becomes too daunting and you'll be like नहीं छोड़ो यार बाद में करेंगे. So that's the number one thing. The second thing is how can we be available for you as a company always to answer your question. So that's the customer success or the customer service type of bit which we focus a lot on, so that because we realize that it's a new thing for every investor, right? It's a leap of faith that you have to take to invest internationally for the first time. And so us as humans, not as a computer or an app being there, as humans being there for you throughout the journey is very important. And so that's something that we focus on a lot. And then the third is कि आपका पैसा deposit हो गया, then what do you do? And so there we give you what I was mentioning earlier. We give you tools. We give you these pre-built portfolios. A lot more of them will be added soon. We give you collections ताकि आप जाके discover कर सको कि let's say I want to invest in artificial intelligence. So we'll give you a collection where you just click on artificial intelligence. You can see all the companies that are working in that space. So trying to reduce that cognitive load as much as possible is what our goal is, so that you can start with this journey which is new. Once you start, then you realize, okay, how easy it is and how can you do it in a very easy manner. I think the last thing that I'll mention here, and which might be a little bit of a plug, which is for folks who might not want to take the first leap and transfer funds immediately. What we have is also a referral program where if you sign up on the vested platform, and let's say you refer somebody who funds their account, both the referee and the referrer get $10 each. So you can then use it to try out the platform and then eventually transfer funds. So that's again something that enables people to get started in a much easier manner.
Got it. So guys, now that Viram has mentioned the $10 and $10 referral and referee thing, in the description of both the YouTube and the LinkedIn link, you will find the link for the app. So you can obviously download it, try it, explore it, and see. And thank you, Viram, because a lot of things that you mentioned over the last 30 minutes are problems or myths that each one of us have. And I had these very same questions before I actually interacted with you, because me and my wife had been discussing for a long time कि ठीक है थोड़ा सा US stocks में डालना है, but how, where, the taxation, the legality, all of it is something that was very, very tricky. So guys who are still here, please do throw in your questions there. If you have any further questions from Viram, we have Viram. I'll pick up a few questions. And Viram, if you see any questions that you feel is something that you can answer in. Somebody asks, what are the best US stocks to invest in currently? I know it's a tricky question, but what do you say? Any particular genre, any particular thing that you would suggest here?
Yeah, I mean, a disclaimer from my end is I cannot give investment advice. So please don't consider any of this as investment advice. I think what I can talk about is kind of data that we've seen on the platform about other investors doing it, because one of our goals is to sort of connect investors with each other so that they can discover opportunities. One of the obvious ones that you might have heard of recently is Freshworks has been one that has been quite popular on the platform, especially with a lot of Indian investors understanding the business, knowing the company, a lot of them working or might know somebody that's working there and so knows the culture of the company. So a lot of people there have been investing on Freshworks. It was the number one stock, I think, last entire week as it IPO'd recently, and a lot of interest that came in for the company there. Apart from that, for me personally, if you ask me, some of the emerging themes are very interesting. Like, for example, mobility, something that we don't see a lot of in India, autonomous vehicles or electric vehicles. These two themes are going to be big in the future, right? And so if you can look at particular companies working in these themes and pick some of them, that might be a very interesting opportunity for the very, very long term that you might be thinking of. Similarly, another very interesting theme is in the space of healthcare is of genomics, right? Like being able to edit genes. We've never been, as humanity, we've never been able to do that. And so that's going to change the way diseases are treated in the future. And companies that are working on the cutting edge in this field are available in the US markets to invest in. So, like, for example, CRISPR is one such company that's been available. So companies like these are very, very interesting that you could look at. And then lastly, one super relevant theme is, of course, of cryptocurrencies. And so while you might anyway be doing cryptocurrency investments directly, but also investing in companies that are working in that space is a sort of a less riskier, I would say, way of taking exposure to cryptocurrency. So those are kind of 2-3 themes that I think are very interesting in the US markets.
Got it. So Viram, I think that answers a lot of the questions there. People who are listening, do drop in your comments on what did you like the most about the last 30 minutes? How did you like this? Because the sole objective of getting Viram here was to clear out all those questions there, clear out all the myths that we have around investing in US stocks. And I'm hoping that it's been helpful. So go try it out. It's something that is worth it when you're talking about we've diversified from real estate to stock markets to from the times of FDs and SIPs. I think US stocks is something, now that we have that opportunity, it is something that we should go ahead and do it. So the link is there so that we can go in. Any parting words, Viram, and then we can let you go as well. We won't stop you for too long.
No. I mean, nothing else from mine. I think we covered pretty much everything. I think today is very interesting times for individuals where they have now the opportunity to literally have the world at their fingertips. Right? I mean, it was always there via the internet, but now you also have it via the investment opportunities that are available through platforms like us. So I'm just hoping that people take advantage of that and sort of become global investors over the next decade.
Yep. Thank you so much, Viram. And at this stage, I'd like to tell everyone that we would be working together on a set of knowledge videos as well over the next few weeks as well, so that a lot more people can understand the intricacies of investing in US stocks. Thank you, Viram, for gracing us today, and thank you for patiently answering all those questions which might seem small, but for somebody like me, these are the questions that I would want to know as a probable investor then. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Thank you, Sampark. Yeah, it was definitely fun, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. So thank you everyone for whoever is listening. It was a pleasure hosting this for you for the last 35 minutes. Do drop in your comments on how you like the session, and feel free to reach out to me, Viram, on LinkedIn, on the other social media channels. Thank you so much, and we are signing off. Bye-bye. Bye, Viram.
Bye.